This is Cheryl Richardson, and for those of you that don't know who I am, I'm a coach and an author of 6 books, soon to be 7 this December. I'm publishing a new book called Waking Up in Winter, In Search of What Really Matters at Midlife. It'll be available in mid-December. But before that, I've written Take Time for Your Life, Life Makeovers, Stand Up for Your Life, The Unmistakable Touch of Grace, You Can Create an Exceptional Life with Louise Hay, which was an exceptional experience, and The Art of Extreme Self-Care. And that's really, I've sort of dedicated my life to my own personal growth, and then often teach what I learn as I go along with my readers, along with what I've learned from the clients that I've worked with over the years, and I've worked with a lot of people. So today, it's Independence Day here, and happy 4th to those of you from the States. And for those of you who are from other countries, welcome. I decided to do today's Facebook Live at noontime in the hopes that more of you could make it, because I was receiving emails from people saying, I can't be there when you do it at night, I'm sleeping, and it would be great to be able to see you. So I'm glad to be able to share this time with you. And I look forward to taking your questions. You can post them in the comments. I'll go back. I scroll back and begin from the beginning. So if you want to post a question, you're welcome to do that. In the meantime, let me just say hello to some people. Hi, Fernanda and Sandy, Mary Carmen and Teresa. Hi, Teresa. Jasmita and Kathy. Hi, Kathy, at work. Claudia from Portugal. Hello. And Kellebeck. And Carrie, blessings to you too, Carrie. Hi, Susan. And William from Brazil. Hello, William. Tanya, happy 4th. Tanya from Canada. Hi, happy Canada Day. I know we're past that, but hi, Lee, welcome. Welcome, and Jessica. And Lucinka, welcome, Lucinka. Catherine and Hamid. Lots of people from all over the place. Yeah, tell me where you are. Feel free to post where you are. And Megan from Hampton Beach. Megan, are there any waves at Hampton Beach? I'm just waiting for the water to get a little bit warmer so I can go body surfing. I love it. It's one of my favorite things in the world to do. Louise, hi, welcome, and Amy and Debbie. Yeah, you can go ahead and post your questions, and I'll be answering them in just a couple minutes. I'll be here with you for about an hour. And I was sitting out on the deck this morning. It's where I sort of, let me just move the light out of the way here. I've got lots of sunlight coming in. I was sitting out on the deck this morning, just listening to the birds and hanging out with Poupon, who sits inside the door just next to me, and every now and then meows because he wants to come out, but he doesn't go outside because the minute you start letting cats go outside, you cut their lifespan by about 40% on average. So Poupon's an indoor cat. But I was sitting out there and I'm reading this book that a friend of mine, Kelly, had recommended. It was a book that she had talked about reading after struggling with chronic pain, and found it to be incredibly helpful. And the way she talked about it was really fascinating to me, so I picked it up. It's called The Great Pain Deception. I think it's a self-published book. The author is Stephen Ray Ozanich. This is what it looks like. I've been reading this book in preparation for the Healthcare by the Sea retreat that I'll be hosting in October up in York, Maine. And I'm really fascinated these days with the mind-body connection, healing, the way our emotions and our unhealed life experiences impact our health and our longevity. And I have to tell you, I've just begun this book. I'm only like 50 pages in. But what's really interesting to me, this author had worked with another author by the name of John Sarno. Some of you may have heard of him. He wrote a very successful book called Healing Back Pain years ago, where he made the link between chronic back pain and unconscious, this is my interpretation of it, unconscious emotions, unexpressed emotions in the body, and the link between the two, that oftentimes pain was the body's way of trying to get our attention when something needed to be healed. And he had tremendous success with this book and went on to do clinical trials and really contributed in a significant way to the body of work that looks at the mind-body connection and how what we think, but also what we feel and what we don't feel impacts our health. And so this gentleman, Stephen Ray Ozanich, clearly, was a student of John Sarno. He had suffered with chronic pain for, I think, 27 years and was able to heal his pain using John Sarno's work and then sort of added to that body of knowledge. Anyway, I bring it up because there's two things there's one thing it reminds me of in particular that I think is so important, and that is that, so many of us strive to live a life where we have no problems, right? Where it's smooth sailing, we're happy, we're peaceful, we feel secure, we have certainty in our lives. The reality is life doesn't work that way. And we all are faced with problems, financial problems, work problems, relationship problems, just life in general, health problems. And as I was reading this book, it was such a reminder to me, something I've believed in pretty much, since my late teens, is that I wouldn't have said it back then this way, but today I do, that our problems are really invitations. They're invitations to heal, to become more conscious, to get to know ourselves better, to get to know, to learn what we're made of, to grow and evolve, to raise our level of consciousness. Really, our problems invite us, whether it's problems in a marriage or a partnership, or problems with a boss, or problems with financial security, or trying to pay the bills. I mean, I've been there. I know what it's like to be down to, $100 in your checking account and rent's coming and you don't have the money and you're scared out of your mind. I was there. And what turned things around for me was taking responsibility for my life, not expecting somebody to come and save me, even though I really wanted them to many times, and I still do sometimes today. But really making the decision that I was going to take on whatever was going on for me, take it seriously, and use it to become a better human being, to become a more evolved human being, and to really get to know myself on a deeper, more authentic level so that I would be able to live a life that was more of a reflection of who I really am. So it's one thing I kept thinking about as I was reading this, when he talks about chronic pain, but he also talks about anxiety, depression, fibromyalgia, rosacea. He talks about how our pain is often a distraction from the emotional, from the anger we have at earlier experiences that goes unexpressed because it's not appropriate to be angry or to speak the truth because it might upset somebody. There was one phrase in here. Let me see if I can find it. It just really struck me. I should have looked it up beforehand. But there was just, where is it? Yeah, figures. It never fails. Whenever I'm on camera and I look for something, I'll shut the Facebook Live off, open up the book, and boom, it'll be right there, I guarantee you. Let me just see what he says here. Pain, I can't find it. But it, oh, sorry. Okay. Anyway, he talks about how illness in the body, they go as far as to say that any kind of illness invites us to look at the repressed anger that we have experienced or that we're experiencing that feels inappropriate or that threatens sort of an idealized version that we have of ourselves. I'm the good girl, I'm the kind woman, I'm generous, I'm loving, I don't piss people off, I don't, I'm not mean, I'm not a mean girl, when the reality is we're all of those things, right? All of us are all of those things at different times in our lives. And when we don't give ourselves permission to feel the anger that we have, the rage that we have, whether it's at the pain we feel, the illness we have, our life circumstances, whatever it might be, when we don't give ourselves permission to feel all of our feelings, Instead, what happens is we have pain and illness to distract us from the emotional work. And, you know, I know from the tapping work that I've done over the years and the coaching work that I've done that 9.9 times out of 10, there are unhealed emotional things going on for people when they're struggling with pain. And they suffer more from the pain and the illness than they would if they just even became aware. So one of the things you can do, and then I'll start taking your questions, is if you're dealing with some kind of physical ailment, just start asking yourself, what am I angry about something? Am I frustrated with something? Is there something that's really upsetting me that I'm unaware of? Like just holding the inquiry, just beginning to inquire. Are there feelings that I have that I might be unaware of? And you can do things, you can just start writing. The feelings I think I have are, the emotions I'm experiencing are, I'm really angry at, I'm really pissed off about, I'm really frustrated with. You can journal it. You can talk to a friend, somebody who will just be a loving mirror. They're not going to say anything. They're not going to try and talk you out of it or fix anything. But just see if you can find a place to just begin to explore. It's one of the things we do at the retreat, the Healthcare by the Sea retreat or the Self-Care by the Sea retreat, depending on which one it is. I do several interactive exercises that invite people to go deeper, to not just assume that your first response to a question is the truest response, but we go deeper and deeper and deeper so that you get to the underlying experiences, the underlying feelings, the underlying thoughts and beliefs that are really driving your behavior. And interestingly enough, when you just realize, yeah, I'm really pissed at my boss for just being inappropriate, like not speaking to me in a decent human way, or I'm really angry at my financial situation. I'm pissed that I have to support myself, or I'm angry that I'm here again and I can't pay my bills. And every time it seems like I get a little money, some bill pops up and then it's all gone. I mean, I remember all of these feelings myself, and I'm really angry at that. The interesting thing is just making the link between your anger or your feelings and the health ailment. For some people, sorry, I keep banging my computer. For some people, it actually instantly begins to reduce the pain or calm whatever ailment is happening in the body. So give it a try. You know, I really do believe the future of medicine is about energy. We'll begin to understand how deeply important it is to pay attention to not only what we think, but what we're told. One of the things this gentleman talks a lot about in this book is how statements from doctors when patients are in high stress situations become life sentences. You know, when we're vulnerable and a doctor says, well, you've got back pain and, you know, the only thing that's going to correct this is surgery, chances are you're going to believe that, and then you're going to start orienting your whole life around the need for surgery, when in fact there are thousands of examples of people who are actually able to heal without medical intervention. Now, I'm not a doctor. Do not take what I'm saying as medical advice. Don't do that. I'm not responsible for your health. You need to find the right people. But I am saying we have a lot more control over our health than we realize. And I love books like this that remind me of that. So again, it's called The Great Pain Deception. TMS is what they call it. It's attention syndrome. You'll read about it if you're interested. But all right, let's get to your question, shall we? Yeah, I see, Lee. Some people, it seems like you might be getting cut off. It should be. It looks like my connection here is strong, so it's got to be the connection wherever you are, which is so frustrating. Always remember, everybody, to update your Facebook app before you come on Facebook Live. I'm updating it constantly. It makes a huge difference. So Lee, you might want to sign off, update it, and then sign back on. It could help if anybody's having that trouble. All right, let's see. I am going to look for your questions now. So you can post your questions here, and I'll do my best to find out. I'm also going to go online and see I know I invited some of you to post questions earlier too, so we'll see if anybody did that as well. Bear with me one second while I just go on here. There we go. Okay. So Helene says, my daughter is planning on starting her coaching business, and I feel very insecure with that project. I doubt if she can earn a living by doing that. She is aware of my insecurities and is complaining of my lack of support towards her goals. What should I do? I would complain too, Helene. We want our mothers and our fathers and our families' support. We just do. It's the support that means the most. And whether you believe she can be successful or not is about you. It's actually not about her. Now, Helene, you're speaking to someone who has been very successful as a coach. Long before I ever wrote a book, long before I ever gave a speech or got paid for speaking, I built a coaching practice. It took me about 2 years to build a referral-generated, sustainable, successful practice, but I did it. I worked hard, and I worked at a job while I was building my practice. So I had a consistent source of income, and I wasn't going into debt, and I wasn't relying on clients to pay the bills. I eventually built a very successful coaching practice. So I know that it can happen. Your job as her mother is to love her and support her. She's a woman who's going to find her way in the world. If things don't work out, she's going to learn something from that. And the best thing you can do is say to her, you know what, I believe in you. You're a smart girl. I think you have a lot to offer. I will handle my own insecurity, my own nerves about it, and I promise to support you. You have my undying support, and you know, if you need a champion or a cheerleader, you just call me up and I'm going to remind you of how great you are. That's what a daughter needs from her mother. That's what your mother needed from her mother, and her mother needed from her mother, and so on, and so on, and so on as the commercial goes. So if you're nervous, Helene, now if this has anything to do with you financially supporting her, and she's a grown woman and you can't afford to financially support her, then you have a right to take care of yourself, which is to say to her, I love you, I know I've been supporting you for X amount of time. I'm going to need to stop doing that because I can't afford to, in which case I'll give you 3 months or 6 months. But at the end of that time, you're going to need to be doing something to support yourself. And then you must stick to that boundary. If you love your daughter, don't set a boundary and then back off, because that's not going to support her. It's going to just allow her to keep floundering. You're going to force her in a loving way to take responsibility for her life, if in fact that's the case. If it's not, Helene, then you just need to take care of your own feelings with support outside of your relationship with your daughter. This isn't about your daughter. She has her own work to be doing to develop her courage and confidence about building her practice. You need to be getting your support with friends, not family members either. I don't think it's wise to be talking about somebody else behind someone else's back in a family. I would encourage you to go to your friends and talk about what you feel insecure about, what you're afraid of for your daughter, how much you love her and you want her to succeed, but you're afraid it might not happen. That's where you can get your needs met, so that you don't overburden your daughter with anything more than what she already has right now as she's building her business. All right? That's my 2 cents, darling. Hope it's helpful. Okay. Allison says, my partner of 9 months in a different country, wow, has just come out of rehab today, where he was for a month getting off Lyrica, a prescription drug. I think it's called Pregabin in America. He had it for fibromyalgia. The pain is gone, yay, but now how can I be there for him and give him support without trying to fix it? He also used the time to stop drinking alcohol. Okay, Allison, well, so first of all, you're in a different country. That presents one set of challenges. It's very hard, I find, to build a successful, intimate relationship with a partner who isn't with you. You know, it's a whole different world when you live with somebody versus when you see them every now and then. It really, truly is a whole different world. So there's that issue. Generally, when we're trying to fix somebody, it's because we have anxiety that we're trying to manage by hoping that the other person will do what we tell them to do so that they'll feel better. Does that make sense, Allison? So a lot of times whatever you do to try and fix anything is probably you trying to manage your own anxiety, maybe feeling unsure about the relationship, the fact that it's long distance, the fact that it's only been 9 months, that he's been in rehab. You know, in AA, they say that somebody ought to have a good year of recovery under their belt before they even think about being in a relationship. I've said that before here on this Facebook Live. It's just the truth. So I think that, I think what I would recommend to you, Allison, the best thing I could say to you is to get some emotional support, maybe see a good therapist or somebody who can help you to manage your own feelings around this, or not even manage, but express your own feelings and do some healing work around your own feelings about this relationship. You might even consider Al-Anon, which traditionally is for family members of, or loved ones, not family members, not only family members, but loved ones of people with an alcohol problem, or Nar-Anon, which is for people, loved ones of people with drug problems. You might even want to attend some of those meetings. They have meetings over the phone and online as well as in person. I always think in-person meetings are the best, but if you don't have access, over the phone is the next best thing, or the internet. I would recommend that you get some support in that regard, and your job with him is to just listen as much as you possibly can, to just be a loving mirror. And it's not easy, it's hard. I'm totally guilty when my husband Michael has something going on. I mean, thank God my husband Michael's also a therapist and a very wise man who will say to me, don't be my mother, be my wife. Like, just listen to me. Just let me process this on my own. I don't need you to fix it. And every time he says it, I think, there I go again. I come by it honestly. I've done it for a long time, but it's not a good thing, Allison. So get your own support, sweetheart, so that you can really be there for him and see where this relationship goes. Okay, let's see. Okay, so Jessica says, I'm at a point of transition. I think I need to switch doctors, psychiatrist. It was really hard to start with this doctor because I needed to tell him vulnerable things about myself. It's hard to think I need to restart this process with a new one. I need strategies to help me through this. Well, first of all, Jessica, it's really smart on your part to recognize that it's time for a new support. I think that as we grow and evolve, it's it's not uncommon to need different kinds of support systems. I've changed coaches, I've changed therapists, I've changed doctors. I really want people who are supporting me to feel like equal partners who I feel safe with and excited about working with and really comforted by and nurtured by, and that I grow and learn and evolve from. I never want to be, if I'm doing therapy with somebody or coaching with somebody, I don't want to be doing therapy with them or coaching with them that's inappropriate and not okay. So it's really smart that you recognize that, number one. Number two, I think sometimes, in the beginning when we first hire therapists or psychiatrists or doctors, we're in really vulnerable states, and especially if it's a new experience, it's not uncommon to start working with somebody and then, after a while realize, not so sure this was the right choice. But at the time you just needed somebody. As a psychiatrist, you might have needed prescriptions written or, just desperately needed help. So I say that because you're not the same person, Jessica, that you were when you first started with that psychiatrist. So it's important to upgrade your inner perspective of yourself. Because the next time around, I would encourage you to interview several people, unless the first interview you just know, oh my gosh, this is it. Interview several people. You can ask questions like, tell me about your experience. Tell me about your experience working with people like me. What's your philosophy, your healing philosophy in working with people like me? Do you believe in doing your own work? Depending on, if I were interviewing a therapist, I'd want to know if they have a therapist and if they're being supervised and if they do their own healing work. That's really important to me. You can say, I'd like to just start slowly, and I'd like to start, you can also say this, Jessica, I'd like to start in present day with the things that are bothering me right now and focus on the pieces of my past directly related to that and see where this leads over the first, month or two as we get to know each other and as I get to see whether or not this is the right fit for the both of us. So that you can start out slowly, Jessica. You don't have to dive right in. And there are some things I would bet that you've already shared that you won't need to share again because some parts have been healed or addressed. I could be wrong, and I'm not a doctor and I'm not a therapist. I always say that. But as a coach, I lead a lot of people to therapy, a lot of people to psychiatry, a lot of people to doctors who really need good support. And I always say, look for people who get that there's more, that aren't like, I think Chris Northrup calls it, like aren't on search and destroy missions, that are artists in the way that they heal. They take into account the whole body. They take into account the mind, the body situation. So from a psychiatric standpoint, they're not just giving you prescriptions or, giving you a 15-minute appointment, but they're actually willing to enter into a relationship and look at how that relationship can heal. As I started out this Facebook Live saying with this book that I'm reading, so much of what we struggle with in life, in the body, landed there because we didn't deal with it emotionally first. Not because we're bad people. Most of us weren't even conscious of it. So we need healthcare providers who are willing, who have the time and the presence of mind to be with us as we explore that which is underneath the physical or emotional ailments that are going on, so that we feel like we have the time and space to do that. So I hope that's helpful, Jessica. Let's see. Hi, Claudia. Okay, I'm just looking for more of your questions. Hey, Mark and Suzanne, hello. The name of the book was The Great Pain Deception, and I think Lee posted something about it. Thank you, Lee. I know Lee and Kathy are the sweet women who are always posting. I know Kathy's at work, and Lee often posts the resources, and I really appreciate that. Okay, so let's see. What else do we have here? Okay. James says, I'm in a parade, so I've got to run. James. Well, that's very funny. We had James on Facebook Live a couple weeks ago. That's when the rainbow showed up. Remember, I showed the rainbow for some of you who were here. And then the next week, last week, I was doing Facebook Live, and once again, we had a double rainbow show up. And wouldn't you know, James was out and just happened to sign on to Facebook Live right when the rainbow was there. And I thought, my goodness, that's a sign for him. Okay. Yeah, a lot of people talking about the link between pain and pain in the body, emotions, blocked emotions in the body or unconscious emotions. Rachel says, hi, Cheryl. Hi, Rachel. I'm thinking of relocating from Atlanta to D.C. While I'm independent, I'm also very close with my parents who are in Atlanta. I know my mom especially loves having me here. I feel some guilt over potentially leaving because of this, and also because I wanted to be here to help take care of my wonderful parents when they get older. How do I get over this guilt about moving? I feel guilty about making my mom sad, though she wants what's best for me, and fear that I'll feel guilty later on. Guilt, 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 guilt. Rachel, so much guilt. My goodness. I'm worried about the guilt. Guilt is another thing I think that gets lodged in the body a lot of times. I really do. So, Rachel, it's not uncommon to feel guilty whenever we start to make choices that honor our self-care. It's just how it goes. A lot of people stay stuck and don't make choices because they keep desperately waiting for the guilt to go away. That doesn't happen. It dissipates as we befriend the guilt and see it as a messenger that we are probably considering making a move that's in our best interest. Now, I understand and can appreciate your desire to want to be around your parents. My mom lives about an hour and 20 minutes away, and there are many times where I'm from a large family where the texts that go back and forth, where my siblings who live near her pop in to see her, and I just think, gosh, I just wish I lived there so I could do that. I don't feel guilt about that. I feel sadness about that. But I make arrangements. Like my mom is coming up next week with her best friend, and she's going to spend some time here. She'll spend the night, and we have a special visit together. Or I'll make arrangements for when I can go down to visit and be really present as much as I can be with a big family. So, Rachel, I think what you'd be better off doing is putting your energy into how you'll make the move and stay connected. My mom and I have FaceTimed before. It's so funny. She's on her iPad. I don't know if she's here. Mom, are you here? She might be watching this. She'll be on her iPad, and sometimes I'll just see like her neck, and I'll be like, Mom, you have to move the iPad up so I can see your face. And then she'll show me her and her cats, Reba, and oh my God, I'm spacing on her other cat's name, Rex. She'll show me her cats, and it just makes us feel connected in some way. Or we'll text. My mother every single night, ever since my dad died, texts all of us kids a good night message. Sometimes they're really funny, sometimes they're really touching. And that keeps us connected. So, Rachel, the question is, how will you stay connected? You're a grown woman. You need to live your life. Healthy parents want their children to live their lives. My mother's really good at that. She's always saying, I want you kids to live your lives. I don't ever want to be a burden to my kids. That would bother her more than it would bother us. I mean, most of us would want her with us. We'd have to beg her to be with us, actually. So healthy parents want their children to, their children to live good lives. And so I think it's important that you do so, but at the same time, you need a plan for how you're going to stay connected. You're going from Atlanta to DC. It's not that far. How awesome is that? Maybe you can plan quarterly visits. Maybe you can plan weekly FaceTime visits or Skype visits. You can set your mom up on Skype or your dad up on Skype. I think those are great. I have friends all over the world that I Skype with. It's not the same as being in person. It will never be the same as being in person. But having those plans, I think, will allow you to continue to live your life while staying connected to your parents. And then, at some point, if they need you, then you can make a different decision. But you don't want to not live today out of fear of what you're going to feel in the future. That's not living in the present moment. It's actually not living at all, Rachel. So I hope that's helpful. Okay, let's see. There we go. Lee, I'm glad you have a better connection. Hi, Cheryl, Lynn, and Victoria, and Diane. Hi, Cheryl. What can you say about fatigue? I and so many women I know and work with suffer from fatigue and overwhelm these days. Yeah. First thing I want to say is, what are you doing to feel fatigue? There's so many things I could say about fatigue. First and foremost, sleep. Good night's sleep. I do my best. Now, my husband Michael's a night owl. He's up all night. I sleep at night. We meet in the morning. He goes to bed. I'm getting up. And we have to make arrangements to have dates together. And we spend the evenings together, the early evenings. But he knows I like to be in bed by 10 so that I can sleep and get up around 6 in the morning, 11 at the latest. So a regular, consistent sleep schedule. The earlier you go to bed, it's important to remember that the wake-up hormones start to kick in after midnight, generally speaking. So the earlier you go to bed, the sounder you can fall asleep, the less chance you have of waking up and then having the mind, the wake-up hormones are already kicking in and the mind's like, you're starting to overthink things. Sometimes there are supplements you can take, healthy supplements to support sleep, but I would not do that at all without seeing a naturopath or a functional medicine doc. But sleep is the first thing. And Rachel, 9 times out of 10, when I'm talking to women who are feeling overwhelmed and fatigued, there are several things going on. They don't have a regular sleep schedule. They're not getting consistent sleep. They don't have a decent diet. They're not getting enough protein and vegetables. There's too many refined carbohydrates and sugar. Sugar is a hugely addictive substance. We now know that Oreo cookies have the same reaction in the brain as cocaine does, okay? French fries, pizza, ketchup, like the things that drinks from, these frozen drinks from Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts and all of these different places are loaded with sugar. And that affects the hormone system of the body. It creates blood sugar spikes up and down. So healthy nutrition makes a big difference. And then the big thing is 9 times out of 10, when I'm talking to women who are feeling overwhelmed, when I look at everything that's on their plate, they need to take it. Probably if I were working for them, I'd take 50%, working with them, I'd take 50% off their plate and challenge them to live their life doing less. Now, of course, what I always hear is, oh, easy for you to say, you know, you don't have kids or you don't have a busy life, which, you know, I would challenge that. I have a busy life in different ways, or had a busy life in different ways. I don't anymore. I have to work. I mean, I understand all of that. I've said all of those things myself, and at times in my life, those things have been true. But I've never, ever, in all of the time I've been teaching and coaching and speaking, and I've spoken to thousands, I mean tens of thousands of people, I have never found a person that I couldn't find some things off their plate that needed to go, some different choices or decisions they needed to make in order to have less overwhelm in their lives. So looking at sleep, looking at your diet, maybe getting a physical, seeing a good naturopath or a good functional medicine doctor, having some blood work done. I just had blood work done for the first time in a number of years, actually. And I was sure that, I had no idea what they were going to find. And what they found was, for the most part, I actually have really a healthy body. Why? Because I exercise all the time now. And I try to do something every single day. And I exercise vigorously in fun ways. So that's also important. But if you're fatigued for the reasons I talked about first, they need to be addressed. The body needs to be healed before you start stressing it even more with intense exercise. That's not a good idea. Okay, I hope that's helpful, Rachel. Okay. Eric says, what do you do to center yourself when you feel like your energy and mind is all over the place? Well, Eric, this morning, when I was sitting outside, right now I'm looking at the bird feeder, and I swear to you, there's this little squirrel. If I could undo my phone easily, I would show you. There's this little squirrel just standing on the deck railing with his little paws leaning on the block on top of the railing, just looking out, looking out over the backyard, like hanging out there like a little man. So cute. So Eric, I was sitting out on the deck and I had been reading, and then I started to think about, I've got to do Facebook Live and I've got to do this and that, and I started to and I got up and I did a few things, and I just noticed my energy felt kind of wonky, and I just felt overstimulated. And so I did what I always do, Eric. I took my phone, I put it on Do Not Disturb. I went to the clock, I set a timer for 10 minutes. Actually, this morning I set it for 15. I've been meditating for a while now, so it's easier. And 15 to me is short. Set it for 15 minutes, laid down in a chair, a lawn chair on the back deck, and meditated for 15 minutes. And Eric, I'm telling you, for the first, I would say 7 minutes, like half of the 15 minutes, I tried everything to get up. I'll do this later. You know what? I'm feeling energetic. These are the things I tell myself, Eric. I'm feeling energetic. I should just get up and get a few things done and then meditate afterwards. I'm not comfortable in this chair, like all these things. But you know what I remembered, Eric? Joe Dispenza, who I love. When I was with Joe in Vegas a couple months ago for an event, Joe and I was speaking at an event, and I sat in his workshop in the afternoon, and I forget what word he used, but just something he said about making sure that we, when we're sitting and the mind gets busy and it starts trying to tell us all the reasons why we shouldn't be sitting and being quiet, to just tell that mind to knock it off, So I started doing this, Eric. I just started saying to myself, sit, just like a dog, not a cat, because cats won't sit. My cat does sit, but anyway. So every time my mind came up with a reason, Eric, for why I should stop meditating, I would just firmly say to myself, sit. Because I will not be a victim to my crazy mind. I want my soul running my life. I don't want my mind running my life. And the only way that happens is when we get quiet and we train the mind to follow our lead instead of us following the mind's lead. So as far as I'm concerned, whether you set your clock for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, the challenge to you is to be the boss of your body, to be the boss of your brain, and to be the boss of your existence here. by telling yourself, I'm going to sit here. I don't care what you say, little one, sweetheart, brain, mind. I don't care what you say. I'm not moving. I'm staying here. My allegiance is to my soul. And Eric, if you do that enough times, when I did it, once I finally just went, sit, it stopped. And then before I knew it, the alarm went off, I hit stop, and I stayed there for at least another 5 minutes. I was so relaxed and peaceful. And then I just returned to the presence of my life. And that's where life is just rich and sweet and wonderful. So I hope that's helpful, Eric. And 10 minutes, 5 minutes even. I think it's really, really important. Yes, MJ, I did have a job while I was building my coaching practice. I always say, never quit your day job, right? We want to make sure that we have a consistent source of income so that we're not suffering while we're building our business. My mom is here. Hi, Mom. Oh, Mom, I think you're amazing too. Thank you, Mom. So sweet. My mother's like one of my biggest fans, and I'm so grateful for that. I really am. Dee Dee, how do you stop gossip with families? I'm struggling with this. Dee Dee, declare that your life is now a gossip-free zone. You can send a loving email to your family, or you can just let them know one by one, I love you, and I've decided that gossiping really doesn't work for me. I need to stop doing it, and you need to stop doing it. You need to stop participating. So you can just let your family know, I've decided to become a gossip-free zone. I might forget, I might make mistakes, but I hope to catch myself, and if you catch me, you're welcome to say something. Oh, remember you were going to be a gossip-free zone? And I'll do the same with you. And then you need to stick to that, Dee Dee. Now, are you going to mess up? Yeah, we're human. I mess up. But you want to try and remember, gossip is just a form of energy that human beings use because we all need energy in order to function. Better to get your energy from a healthy place, like good food and sleep and loving friends and supportive people and inspiring work and creative expression, rather than junk food, gossip, drama. I used to have my clients who were in work environments where there was a lot of gossip. I would have them make a little sign, a little tent sign, and they'd put it on the front of their desk that said gossip-free zone. And sometimes I'd have them put one that said drama-free zone. And that meant they couldn't participate in drama, they couldn't instigate it, and they couldn't participate in it. And the same thing with gossip. So I would recommend that. Okay. All right, so let's see, I'm just going through, looking some of your question. Thank you. Yeah, hi, Allison. Oh, you're welcome. He is the one, no doubt that. I'm in Spain, he's in the UK, but we've talked about living out here. Good. Great, Allison, I think that's great. And you work as a coach. All right, well then hopefully you know, girl, you know what's going on. All right. Thank you, Ursula. Yes, this is my home. And what you're seeing behind me is my husband's whimsy. Do you see right up here? That's a dragon with a light. My husband bought that. It was a black plastic dragon that we had painted the color of a dragon. And the cabinet right there is cabinets that my husband designed with this carpenter in Connecticut. This man who lived in the middle of Connecticut and was passionate about Gothic art. And he was an artist, and we hired him to make our kitchen cabinets. We like to support small businesses, and we waited a long time to get certain cabinets in the house, and it was so worth the wait. So thank you, Ursula. I think it's beautiful, too. I'm so grateful to be here. Shirley says, move to a new state, feel disconnected to family, need to find work nearby, love my new home, what can I do? Well, certainly finding work, Shirley, is going to help you, hopefully, to feel less disconnected. So that means that whatever kind of work you look for, you want to look for an environment that feels warm and friendly to you, right? Where you get to meet people and you have a sense of I don't know, just comfort with the people that you meet. If it doesn't feel good, don't go there. Even if you have to wait tables, I always say, if I had to if I needed a job right now, I would go and wait tables. I'd find a really friendly, lovely restaurant with good people, and I would go and be kind and loving to as many people as I could be, and I would wait tables because it would feel like having my own business. I would just feel like, the better I could be at my job, the more I could earn good money. But look for a place that feels comfortable. And then, just like I was saying to Rachel, I think it's important to create some kind of a plan that will keep you connected to your family. Maybe you can Skype with them more regularly, set that up, or FaceTime, or Facebook Live create a Facebook group and do some Facebook Lives with your family, just as a way to stay connected in some way. I know my sister Carrie and I, for the longest time, had, what do you call them? Fitbits. And we were Fitbit buddies, and my sister Shelley too, and my sister Lisa. And so every day we would compete with each other, and sometimes at night we would text each other, I got more steps than you, and one of my sisters I'd be walking up and down the hall in my house trying to get more steps in. And it was this fun kind of game that kept us connected in some way. So sometimes I think that, there's things that you can share, recipes with each other, or books, or music. I have a good friend of mine who lives about an hour away, and we try to see each other regularly, but sometimes she'll send me the gift of a song that she liked, or she'll create a playlist. I create a playlist for a friend of mine that comes from London, and I created a playlist for her so that every time she gets a massage in London, she listens to it, and she feels connected to me. So there are ways in which we can stay connected. We just have to get creative, and I would encourage you to do that, Shirley. I'm glad you love your home. That's fantastic. And don't be a victim to this feeling of being disconnected. Decide that you're going to make it a family project to be more connected. And decide, make a plan. What one thing can you do every day to be more connected to your family? Or what one thing can you do every week to be more connected? And share with them your job search process. Ask for their support. Ask them to brainstorm with you. Let them know how it's going. Ask them to just be cheerleaders for you, to encourage you and to support you. Those are some things that I would recommend. So let's see. Teresa says, I'm rumbling through some career changes at the moment and have come to a point of inaction. I have so much to offer, but don't know where to start with an action plan. I'm a little fearful of failure. What did I just hear the other day, Teresa? Something about people who are afraid of making mistakes. I think it was Sir Ken Robinson on his TED Talk about creativity in our educational system and how it just trains creativity out of kids. Talked about how when we're afraid of making mistakes or failing, we stop ourselves from being original. So I wonder, Teresa, if you're just tired, if you need a little break. You definitely need support. Whenever somebody says, I don't know where to start with an action plan, that tells me you need support. Trying to, remember this, everybody, trying to figure out what to do when you're feeling in a low mood, when you're feeling stuck, when you're feeling scared, when you're feeling unsure of yourself, not very confident. You're using a mind that's already not doing well to figure out how to be well. Like it makes no sense. So you want the thinking of other people. You're trying to use thinking that isn't working. You want the thinking of other people. I'm sure, for example, Teresa, there are people right here on this Facebook Live right now who have experienced the same thing, who would love to get on the phone and support you, or would love to get on Skype and support you. And if there's anybody who wants to support Teresa, do me a favor and just make a comment, especially if you're feeling lonely and disconnected. I see some of you have talked about feeling lonely. This would be a great way to not feel lonely, to feel more connected, to support one another. We've got a great community. Look at the happy faces and the hearts going by and the thumbs up. We've got a great community of people here. So Teresa, yes, see, there are already people saying, yes, I would support you. Yes, sure will. So I would like you, Teresa, as your coach right now in this moment, I'm giving you an assignment. And your assignment is to go through the comments in this Facebook Live when we're done and private message the people who have said that they'll support you. And maybe all of you can get together on a conference call. God knows there's plenty of free resources now for conference calls. and decide that you'll meet with each other once a week, like in a life makeover group. You can even go to CherylRichardson.com and you'll see resources for the life makeover group right there. And I'm going to just make a note. I always try and remember all the resources. LM group resources. I'll put a post with that. I'll also post this book, the pain book that I mentioned. You can, yeah, thank you for the free conference call. I love this. You can maybe all meet once a week, and you can say that, name a goal or two that you want to work toward, get support from each other, and then stay in touch every single week. Check in with each other. Use the guidelines that I have in the Life Makeover Group resource section, which I'm going to post here afterwards. Use those guidelines because you want to make sure people have equal time. You want to use a timer. No bitching and complaining. No negativity. Just, I love you. I want to support you. Give you a little time to talk about what action you're going to take, and then move on to the next person. So there you go, Teresa. Take advantage of it, okay? That would be great. All right. Let's see, where are we? Still got some time left. I love that. Of course, Mommy is here, honey. Thanks, Mom. I'm so glad you're here. It's so great. Bolette says, hi, Cheryl. I have such difficulty relaxing when there are things I feel should be done. I can see myself from the outside feeling compassion and sadness, and being inside of it feeling completely powerless. This leads to stress and anguish. I've been in deep stress 3 times and feel I know much more, and still I can't seem to leave the unhealthy loop and take care of myself. As a child, I was molested through a couple of years and feel I have moved past that. Well, the fact that you bring that up at the end, Bolette, tells me there's probably a link between, or a link to that in some way. People often don't bring up things they've moved past. It's actually just, unless it gets re-triggered again. And it can, that's life. So Bolette, sweetheart, I bet there's a lot of people watching this Facebook Live that can identify. And if you can identify, do me a favor and just give her a heart. Just tap the heart so that she knows she's not alone. And Bolette, then I want you to notice how many people have difficulty relaxing when they feel like things need to be done. And, you just keep getting up and doing more and doing more and doing more. You see those hearts going by, Bolette? You're not alone. And I certainly understand as well. And yeah, if you can't see the hearts, make sure you swipe left so that you can see them coming through. You need to practice leaving things undone, Bolette. You're really smart in recognizing that you're caught in a loop. One of the things I've talked about on this Facebook Live before, a little trick that I use, it's called do the opposite of what you'd normally do. So I would write that down, Bolette. Do the opposite. Let's state it as an affirmation. I do the opposite of what I would normally do. And what I would recommend is that you start using that. So when you catch yourself sitting and relaxing, and something says, oh, I need to go empty the dishwasher, or I need to go wash the dishes, or I need to send an email, or I didn't respond to this person, or whatever, I want you to just say to yourself, oh, I do the opposite of what I normally do now. I'm just going to sit here. Now, it'll feel uncomfortable for a little while, Bolette, because you are challenging, there's neural programming, deep grooves that have been developed over years that keep you in this pattern of constantly being in movement instead of sitting and being quiet. You might want to start with a 5-minute meditation every day where you set an alarm to retrain your body. By doing the opposite of what you'd normally do and begin to sit and just be still, you can start to break that neural programming. That said, because you mentioned being molested at the end of your comment, I also wonder, I'm assuming you've done some therapy. People do not just move past being molested without support and without working through it. I've never met anybody who just moves past that without good therapy. So I think therapy is important. And because you mentioned it, that might also be something you want to look at. You might want to think about finding somebody who could support you as you sort of, as you explore this difficulty with sitting still. Maybe it wasn't safe to sit still when you were young. And so I'm sure it wasn't. And that pattern was created very early on. And by sitting still now, sorry, something just banged against the window and I hope it wasn't a bird. By sitting still now, it might bring up some of those uncomfortable feelings, Bolette. So I do want to, as a good coach, I would always recommend that when someone brings up any kind of abuse in that way, therapy is always something to recommend. A really good therapist who's experienced in working with these kinds of issues. And then you can just try that little, just the little tip of, I'm going to now do the opposite of what I normally do. Here's the good news, Bolette. As you challenge that old neural programming, the old patterns in the brain, they start to die out and new patterns form, and it happens pretty quickly. I would encourage you to, at the very least, if you can't just sit still, then decide to take a walk. Do something with your body that's enjoyable rather than the task or the to-do or the errand or the whatever it is you feel like you need to do to fix something, so, or to get something done. So, and yeah, if you're dealing with deep stress, you want to get support. You don't want to deal with that on your own. You really don't. Okay. And I'm sending you lots of love, sweetheart. I really am. Okay. Yeah, Jessica, if you sleep too much and you're still tired, I would recommend that you, sleeping too much and you're still tired, I would recommend seeing a naturopath or a functional medicine doctor, and I'd be looking at whatever medications or supplements you're on. I think that would be really important and helpful. Okay. Thank you, Lee, for posting some of what I'm saying. You're very sweet to do that. Yeah, Amy, you're not the only one who has a challenge with meditating. How many other people have a challenge with meditating? Let's give me a thumbs up and let's just show her that, Amy, that she's not alone, huh? Okay. Yeah, see? Look at those thumbs up and those hearts. Yeah, doing walking meditation, that's great. Yeah, Eve says, thank you about the gossip. It's eroded my family. I experienced a very sad divorce and post-divorce pain and angst. Yeah, that's when gossip happens, when usually when there's, a death, a birth, a marriage, a divorce, all of that sort of thing. And that's when we need to really enter into a gossip-free zone the most, for sure. Okay. So Deborah says, I'm having difficulty maintaining a sufficient source of income for the first time in my life. Since being laid off 6 years ago, I've been building my creative businesses, and I'm aiming to have my passion support me. It is coming, but very scary sometimes because I'm on my own. Suggestions welcomed. Yeah. Deborah, you might want to think about looking for a part-time job to support you. I went from working full-time as I was building my business to working 3/4 time, to working part-time, to working really part-time before I eventually stopped working and did just my coaching practice completely. So I think that it's really important. And, our businesses go through cycles. Sometimes I find that people who have been successful in business, when business starts to drop off, it's because it's time for them to reevaluate what they're doing in some way. And sometimes they need to get a part-time job or a full-time job to supplement their income while they're consciously looking at what transition or what changes might need to be made. There's nothing wrong with getting a job. It's not defeat, it's not failure, it's actually good self-care. And it's the way of saying to the universe, saying to life, I am willing to do whatever it takes to make my self-care a priority, and I'm not going to suffer with financial fear. It's a horrible feeling. I know it well, to be so afraid of not being able to pay the bills, or to be so afraid of, going to the store and wondering if I have enough money for groceries, or I have enough money for, whatever it is I'm buying. I mean, it's debilitating. And so early in my life, I decided I didn't want to feel that way. And as much as it sucked, I remember, Deborah, when I had my business going and it just wasn't taking off fast enough. And I had to go and apply for a job. And I honestly, I kind of felt like my tail was between my legs. I was embarrassed. I felt like a failure, but I was tired of suffering and being scared all the time. And I remember I applied for a job at Wellesley College I was a really fast typist. I am a fast typist, like over 100 words a minute. And thank God for typing in high school. Thank you, Miss Barron, my typing teacher. I was offered, I went to apply for an administrative job, and I know the man that I interviewed with, I swear to God, he could see my defeat all over my face. And he offered to give me a transcription job, transcribing speeches that famous women who came to the college gave. We're talking like 30 years ago, 28 years ago. And I remember taking the job and feeling so grateful because I think he knew I would also be inspired by what I was hearing. And do you know that, Deborah, 1 week after accepting that job, I actually never needed to start it because my whole business took off 1 month later. And I swear it was because I made that decision to swallow my pride and go out and get a job when I needed it most. It was almost like the universe said, okay, kid, you proved yourself. And I would have started that job. If I needed that job, I would have started it. But I booked all this business in 1 week and didn't need to. And then my business just began to grow from there over time. And I made, real commitments to my financial health, not accumulating debt. Any extra money I earned went to paying off credit cards so that I could live debt-free. I mean, I took on my financial health as a self-care project, and it has served me well. So be really good to yourself. Get a part-time job or something so that you're not suffering while you build this business. And by the way, it'll free up your creativity. It will allow you to be even more creative as well. Okay. All right, let's see. It's 1 o'clock. There we go. Well, listen, thank you to Lee. Thank you to Kathy, my two spiritual scribes. That's what I'm going to call you, who always post. And for those of you, too, I appreciate so much the support that you give one another, that you show up here, that you participate, that you ask your questions, and that you send the hearts and the thumbs ups and all of that. I really appreciate that you do that. And I hope that some of what you heard today will support you in your life. And because I've learned that when a group of people show up, one person's question is everybody's question at some point. And so hopefully you'll remember some of what you heard today so that if you don't need it now, when you do need it, it pops right back into here and supports you. All right? Thank you, everybody. Lots of love. Remember, look right up at the blue sign-up button. That's where you can subscribe to my weekly newsletter. By doing that, you'll know when the next Facebook Lives are going to be happening. I do them once a week. And I look forward to the next time. Have a really great week and take good care of yourselves. Bye.